they're experiencing themselves. They're working through something. They feel a poetry of thought, of their heart. Maybe a conflict, maybe a sentiment they need to let loose through the skin. It's when it comes through the skin. Some people it's on top of the skin, and in my opinion, some people it comes through the skin. It comes from the heart and the soul. So it just manifests, and it's a direct line into the core of their being. Everybody has their own reason for making the commitment, because it is quite a commitment. Once you put it on, with the exception of lasers, it doesn't come off.
I'm Keith Anderson. I live here in Peterborough, Ontario, and I have one child, a boy named Kai. He's 12 years old, on the verge of being a teenager, so it's going to be an interesting few years. In total, I have 19 tattoos now. Kai was in kindergarten, just starting kindergarten. He was just 5. He was just starting kindergarten, so he was 5 years old. So we put a daisy that he had drawn earlier that summer. He had drawn it. I remember I was at the optometrist picking out a new pair of glasses. I remember the time when he actually sat down at the table and drew it, and then that was in the same time I was thinking about getting it a tattoo, and I thought that would be perfect because it was a perfect size and just the brightness of the colors. So we did that in August, September of 2008. It's the first one that we put on. He gets really excited now that we go and do it because we've been doing it every year. So starting in 2008, we decided that once a year we would go and get one of his pieces of art tattooed that he had drawn that year of his life. And so for me, it's very much a nice bonding experience. It's a permanent record of watching him grow up as a kid. From 4 or 5 years old to now he's 12 and be 13. Stuff that eventually, heard a lot of people say, oh, it's a great idea to get pictures tattooed because on the fridge, and then they get put away in a box or in a scrapbook, and you don't get to see them very often. And so for me, it's just a nice constant reminder of I get to sort of carry him around. One of them is actually his name when he was 4 years old, how he wrote his name. I arm all the time, as much as you don't get to see him, sometimes you don't get to see your kids all the time. So it's a nice reminder just to watch him grow up, as well as just that permanence of his history and the connection that we have. And then even more so that I can look at the pieces that he's tattooed, and he's even more involved in that. So it's just a good bonding experience to have for the two of us. One tattoo shop from the city I lived in then, she had done a couple, and then since 2010, they've all been done here in Peterborough by one artist. The 3 of them had never seen anything like it before. Since, I think, January, February of this year, there's been lots of other stories out there of people who do the same thing, tattoo their children's artwork. It's become more recognized now that people do it. I hadn't really heard of it before, and the artists I had do those pieces hadn't really heard of it before either. And even the artist here that I have in Peterborough that does it, I know he gets pretty excited to be able to be part of the project as we do it each year.
It should be more art, definitely. A lot of artists out there, a lot of my friends and peers, they're doing what they love, and they want to just grow and become better, and expand their knowledge of art and their creativity. And so they'll collaborate, they'll do other mediums. And then there's other people that I know that they just want to show up, make money, and go home. So it's like they don't really give a crap about doing a good job, improving. They don't draw at home. They don't do anything. To them, it's like wake up, go to work, make some cash. So it's there's a bit of both. For me, it's about the art, obviously. Even my guy now, I'm way undercharging him because I really want to do the piece, and he only had a budget of a certain amount. So, but I know friends of mine that said, nope, forget it. No, it's $500 more than what you're willing, or that's it. So.
It Should be more about the art. I mean, there's definitely, if you have both business and art, then you're going to be a huge success, which is awesome. But I mean, the art is the most important part of the tattoo industry, for sure.
But 16 years ago, it was very hard to get into. Not like it is today. It's still difficult to get into, but it was much harder 15, 20 years ago. Everybody was very secretive. They didn't want to let anybody in or tell them anything.
Usually it's not too bad. I can say I have good clients that doesn't complain too much, don't complain too much and everything. For sure some people are hurt, like it's harder and I don't feel good, like I don't like hurting people, but you gotta get through this. Afterwards it's so, like you deserve it kind of thing, like it's worth it.
The very first one on my foot was really painful. Like everyone told me when I was deciding to get that, like that's probably the most painful spot you can get a tattoo done, but it's the only place that I wanted it. So that one was like crazy painful. Like it only took 20 minutes, and I think if it was 5 more minutes, I probably wouldn't have finished it.
I was really nervous when I got my first one because I didn't know what to expect, and it actually didn't really hurt that much at all.
I'm not gonna lie, when I got my first tattoo done, I was in a lot of pain. My best friend Rebecca came and she had to hold my hand the whole time because I was trying really hard not to cry.
Skin moves, people breathe. It's definitely a different texture than paper, so there's a lot of different things to consider when you're taking or drawing off paper and moving it to a tattoo.
We're tattooing on a moving canvas, right? A living canvas, and you have a lot of limitations. The clients, for starters, if they're in pain, you have to stop. If they're uncomfortable, you have to put them in a comfortable position. Piece of paper, if you want to just stop and continue tomorrow, you can. If you start a tattoo, depending on the style of tattoo it is, you may have to finish it once you start it. All kinds of reasons. Some people want it because it means something or it's a significant point in their life. Other people just appreciate the art and they want something nice, something beautiful. They want to decorate their body. There's a million reasons, so there's not... Every single person probably has a different reason.
It can be anything for anyone, but for me, I guess it's my two that have to do with family. I mean, obviously, I love my family, and I don't know, that just kind of explains itself. But the other two, the Dali was just, I guess it was just that frame of mind I was in. Weird craziness, and it sort of represents that sort of craziness at that time in my life. And then, of course, the Thailand represents that time in my life, traveling and experiencing that culture. So it's like a way of expressing that period in your life.
I think with my first two tattoos, the message that I was trying to get across with them was a personal message to myself. Like, even my parents don't fully understand the reason why I got my bird tattoo. They know that I self-harmed, but they don't know the extent that it was actually went on for 5 years. And they don't know that the scar on my hip is actually from me self-harming. But the Wanderlust one on my shoulder, that was one that I kind of got for other people so that they would be able to look at me while I'm traveling and say, this is a person who's been everywhere and done everything and seen a lot in her life. But the other two, they're more personal and they're more to remind myself of how far I've come and how far I have yet to go.
I had gone through a really rough point in my life. I ended up losing a child at 3 months, so I was having a really rough time coping with it emotionally, so I decided that a way for me to get it off my chest and for me to express myself how I was feeling at the time, I'd get lyrics. So it says, "Find strength in pain," and it's from a Mumford & Sons song called "The Cave."
The people I was spending time with, it was a way to communicate our truth to one another. And once you put the tattoo on, obviously you can't take it off, right? And so it was a way to show proof of a loyalty of the brotherhood that I mentioned, And I think also for me individually, separate from the group, it was a way also for me to express my conflict, my passion, and also a rebellious tendency that I think a lot of young people, young men, young women, they go through that stage of their life where they just want to break free of a mold, of a concept that they feel locked up in. So to get tattooed was a defiant act back in the 1970s. So for me, it felt great to just, break the law, so to speak, and not get arrested.
Like a lot of people will get a tattoo and they'll say, it's just for me, which is fine. But I think it's also a statement to other people, and expressing something that's gone on in your life and putting it out there for the world to see.
Actually, tattooing goes back to my culture. Being Aboriginal myself and being from Haida Gwaii, tattooing is in my blood, essentially. We're one of the first cultures in North America to embrace tattooing, and this was just a natural extension of that. I've always wanted tattoos when I've seen pictures of my ancestors, and I thought there's got to be a modern way to do it, and the symbols and the things that I've gone through reflect that in my tattoos.
I'm Plains Cree and Taino. Yeah, so the Plains Cree would originate in Alberta, Saskatchewan area, where the Taino people would actually be Caribbean, more into Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica. When I was 10, I got permission to dance this style, and in that I was initiated into the Grass Dance Society. I'm the only woman's grass dancer in all of Canada, so I was given permission to do this dance because I'm a woman and doing a men's style of dance. So this dance, traditionally, before the people would go and set up their teepees or where they were going to where they would set up camp, they would send out the grass dancers. So the job of the grass dancers were to go out into these areas, and if you know the prairies, the grass stands so high up like that. And you can't just set up a camp because there's things that live inside the grass. So there's gophers, there's snakes, there's animals in there. There's gopher holes, which is these little holes that, if you step in, you can get hurt. So these dancers would go, and they would go in, and at the same time of making sure it was safe, they would also bless that area to make sure it was okay. But instead of stomping down the grass, they would gently lay it down, so that when they were done camping in that area, the grass would be able to stand up again. So the paint can also be to tell what nation you're with. You're still keeping the story alive of painting your face and showing your nation, but at the same time it is for decoration. And we'll always make sure that it's one side looks like very perfect and then the other side sometimes mirrors it. So you always want to mirror the other image. I like to do everything in fours. 4 is the 4 sacred numbers, the 4 sacred medicines, the 4 sacred directions. So I like to do things in fours to keep that alive. Taino people did do face painting, but theirs was more dotting. And the paints that you would see here, you would see more red, more natural colors. You wouldn't see the type of paints that we use today. It was mud colors, roots that were dyed, and then they would be painted on the face. A lot of the times it was during a time when you were either going to and Native people didn't always go to war with each other. Sometimes it was when they were going hunting. They would put on different types of colors, and in those colors, they would there would be lots of different meanings. So in the medicine wheel, you have the colors of yellow, red, black, and white, and in those symbolizes. So the yellow, that's children. The red symbolizes fire, and that's the teenagers. The black symbolizes the adults in your adulthood. So, and then the white is for the elders. So in the paint, it would be the same thing. So you would want different, so white would be more wisdom. So you would want to add that to your face. And then if you want that fire, if you're going to war, say that you would put the red in there, and then you would put it on your eyes. For the men, a lot of the times, they would paint most of their face, where the women would accent different areas. Some women would paint here, here, and here, and that's a lot of times where you'll find a lot of the women painting, where the men will go right down the face and paint even more of their face, either their whole face or only on top. And a lot of the time it was you would see a lot of the red paint being on the forehead. And that was a lot in the plains. So, another style of dance that really tells a story in its own is the hoop dance. It was done, again, ceremonially at first, but then a young man from the southern states, Arizona area, he took this dance and made it more into storytelling through dance. So through this dance, you would take your hoops and you would dance with them in a way that you would manipulate them and weave your body into the hoops and tell a story. So in this, you would allow the audience to go on their imagination and envision what type of places that this dancer has been. Some people will say it's like hula hooping, but it's not. It's very different from hula hooping. Hoops aren't just, hoops where you just have them and put them away. They're seen as like your best friend. It's alive. It's not just a hoop. It's something more. It's like something you have to work together. It's a partnership with your hoop. You have to work together to tell your story, to tell our story. And in that's where the storytelling comes to life.
My name is Callie Hill. Mohawk name, Gowanushiyosta. Within the Mohawk Nation, everyone falls under 3 different clans, either turtle, wolf, or bear. And because my mother was of the turtle clan and we're matrilineal society, then that makes me turtle clan. If we look back at some of our oldest pictures and portraits and stuff of some of our earliest ancestors, they are tattooed. And I'm not really sure of the meaning behind their tattoos, but for me, I think it's because it's so permanent on my body. I really wanted to be certain, and it had to be meaningful to me in order for me to do that. Like I wouldn't have gotten like just a butterfly or, a flower. But I know I always wanted to get one that was meaningful for me and my 2 girls, because it's been like the 3 of us for the most of our life. They do have a father, but I've raised them mostly. And so I wanted something that was meaningful for the 3 of us. The meaning, it carries a lot of meaning for me as well, because as I said, we're matrilineal. So my mother was turtle, my father was of the wolf clan. And so also the father of my daughters is of the wolf clan. And so that makes the tattoo meaningful to me, that it depicts both of the clans that are close to me, close to my heart, and close to my identity, I guess.
Personally, all of my tattoos represent something for me.
For me, I suppose it's just a way of kind of expressing yourself.
The pain that you feel right now can't compare to the joy that's to come.
I think it's a way of
For me, it's very much
your frame of mind at that time in your life.
By facing that and putting the flower on my body, it really kind of conquered that.
Personally something.
Watching him grow up.
I think with my first 2 tattoos, the message that I was trying to get across with them was a personal message to myself.
Stuff that eventually, for me, it's just a nice conquer in my
That was the symbolism behind those tattoos, and that was my way of saying I'm out and free in the world finally at the age of 18.